Three, two, one. Good morning, Toastmasters. Good morning, suffragettes. Good morning, fellow scientists. I'm Joseph Colgan. Thank you very much for getting up early on a Tuesday morning to hear my little speech, Suffragette City. Hunter, Rick Hunter. Rick Hunter was thrown out of high school for blowing up the chemistry lab. He was getting by as a usually unemployed part-time construction worker. He was a member of Mensa, and he kept busy by traveling with his fellow cave explorer, Steve Tucker. I want you to notice his photo and see how thin and wiry Steve is. Rick is also. That's going to be pertinent to our story. Rick and Steve were exploring in South Africa in the region known as Rising Star. Here's a cutaway of the cave where they were working in. The entrance is rather gentle. Many people have gone into this entrance, both paleontologists and just the amateur cave explorers. They've gone through the Superman's crawl, we'll talk about in a little bit, to this totally pitch black room where Rick and Steve found a 7.5-inch gap. Believe that they could be the very first humans in over 20,000 years to decide they want to see what's on the other end of that gap. So they wiggled their way in, only to come to about a 20-foot drop. However, the drop is also very narrow. They were able to use their elbows, knees, feet, and waist to guide themselves gently down, and they came into the Dinaledi chamber where they made an astounding discovery. This discovery was made on Friday, September 13th, 2013. I want you to think about how recent this is and where you were. I know that you were already living in California, in Cupertino. I know that you were already a member of Adelante Toastmasters, and the overwhelming majority of you were already settled into Silicon Valley. Rick and Steve needed to report their discovery to somebody, and that somebody was Lee Berger. In case you don't know who Lee Berger is, Lee is Joe Montana, the Oprah Winfrey, the Albert Einstein, the Madame Curie of modern day paleontology. Lee has very well known for a discovery he made in 2008. That discovery was so important that they put his picture on the cover of the Rolling Stones. No, actually, they did. They put his articles in Scientific America, Science Magazine, Time Magazine, and many almost uncountable professional periodicals. Again, for the discovery that Lee made in 2008. But wait a minute. Lee did not really make this discovery. His 9-year-old son in 2008 discovered humanoid bones that date back nearly 2 million years. Now, at this point, Rick and Steve notified Lee what they had. Lee knew this was definitely something to look into. He was going to need evidence before his sponsor, National Geographic, would fund a dig, especially a large dig. So they returned to Rising Star, and it just at that time was only one individual in South Africa who could get through that 7.5-inch gap was well trained in paleontology, well versed on digital photography. That happened to be Lee's 14-year-old son, Matthew. So Lee shuffled on into the cave with the other three young men and watched his 14-year-old descend into darkness down the 7.5-inch gap while he waited on the other side. He waited an hour. He waited an hour and a half. He started to sweat and try to think, what was he going to tell Matthew's mother? Finally, at 2 hours and 10 minutes, Matthew's head popped out with an enormous grin and tremendous photographs. They went home. These photographs were immediately forwarded to the vice president of National Geographic, and he received a 2:30 in the morning phone call, which he was only too happy to take. These photos were forwarded to him on Sunday, October 6th. On the spot, they approved Lee's dig, so he immediately went out for work. And he did what most of us do every day. In fact, some of you are even doing it right now. He checked his Facebook account. He wrote a very long request. I'll summarize it for you here. The person I'm looking for must be skinny and preferably small. Successful candidates could not be claustrophobic. They had to be cavers. They had to hold a relevant master's degree. They had to come to Johannesburg immediately and accept a blind mission for no pay. I want to think about, if you're a recent master's degree or you're working on your PhD, you're somewhere between $60,000 and $160,000 in debt. The only people that will give you credit at this point in your life are the Bank of Mom. And you are going to walk away from your teaching assistant job, which pays barely better than minimum wage, go disappear to Africa. And oh, by the way, you won't be able to reach me because most of the time I'll be 50 feet underground. But 57 people were willing to do this. Lee chose 6 of them. The team was put together on Sunday, November 10th, 2013. And these 6 young ladies are the members of the Rising Star expedition, nicknamed the Underground Astronauts. Again, here's a cutaway. It's just from the opposite orientation, showing their work environment. First is a rather gentle slope down along here. And then the Superman's crawl. The Superman's crawl is called the Superman's crawl because even many of these petite ladies cannot get through it. It's only 10.5 inches wide without putting one shoulder in front of the other and sort of shaking as if you're Superman flying through the air. Then you come to this pitch black, jagged, unpleasant area up with 7.5-inch gap. You have to kind of shuffle through, ease yourself down the 20-foot drop and into the Dinaledi chamber. The work is filthy. You're isolated. You're away from your family and friends. It's dirty. It's hot. It's stinky. It goes on for what seems like forever. And these 6 young ladies said, bring it on. What's the significance of the Rising Star dig? Well, the world's top anthropologists have worked for 50 years in East Africa, and they have found a total of 100 hominoid fossils. The Rising Star team found their first 100 hominoid fossils in 5 days of working. This 19-day expedition and a second team working in a nearby cave a few months later found a total of 1,500 hominoid fossils. This more than doubled the entire number of hominoid fossils discovered worldwide. Usually, fossils are partially enclosed by hard rock and sediment. It takes weeks, even many months, to free the fossil from the stone it's encased in. Fossils in the Dinaledi chamber were laying flat on dusty, dry earth. And the majority of the bones in the chamber were articulated. This means the finger bone was right there next to the hand bone, right on the arm bone, right next to the shoulder bone, and so on throughout the body. In a future speech, I will elaborate on the findings in the chamber, but I want to conclude today listing the heroines of the expedition. Becca Xato, PhD student, Washington, D.C. Maria Elliott, PhD, Canada. Alan Fuezrezel, Masters, Biological Anthropology, Australia. Hannah Morris, Master's degree, Ohio State University. Ali Gurtov, PhD candidate, Tanzania. Hunter, A. Lindsay Hunter, MRS degree. Oh, I'm just kidding. She did end up marrying Rick Hunter, who I opened up this speech with. And Lindsay has a PhD candidate in Iowa University. Toastmasters, suffragettes, friends, scientists, at one point in your life, you're going to be asked, go into the dark. It's going to be bad pay. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be cut off from your family and friends and network. Go into the dark, because that's where great discoveries are made. Thank you very much for getting up this morning and listening to Kissing Cousins Chautauqua #2, Madam Toastmaster.